This is a heritage not only of the Jewish people, but for half of humanity. It's also the heritage of the Muslims and the Christians, of course. This relates to everyone. So we have to do things carefully, and also the research should be done carefully.
An astonishing revelation has left historians and scientists in disbelief, as cutting-edge technology has unearthed clues hidden beneath one of the most sacred sites on Earth, the Temple Mount. But what exactly did modern AI uncover? And why are experts calling this the most important find of the century? Could this discovery change everything we thought we knew about faith, history, and the divine connection between heaven and earth? Stay with us as we peel back layers of stone, time, and mystery. The mountain where worlds collide. In the heart of Jerusalem's Old City, the Temple Mount rises like a crown upon ancient stone. Its walls and gateways whisper the voices of forgotten empires, but its essence is far greater than mortar and rock. Known in Hebrew as Har Habayit, the Mount of the House, and in Arabic as Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary, this plateau has become the spiritual crossroads of the world. To Jews, this is the holiest place on earth, the site where King Solomon's legendary First Temple once stood. Inside that sacred structure, legend tells us the Ark of the Covenant rested, its golden cherubim guarding what many believed was the very presence of God. Centuries later, after the Babylonians tore down Solomon's temple, a second temple rose from the ruins, only to be destroyed by Roman forces in 70 AD. Yet even in its absence, longing for restoration never faded. For Muslims, the mount carries equal weight. According to Islamic tradition, this was the place where the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven on his night journey. The Dome of the Rock, built in the 7th century with its brilliant golden crown, stands as a shining reminder of that moment. Beside it, the Al-Aqsa Mosque remains a sanctuary of worship, its call to prayer echoing across the city. Christians also find meaning in this sacred hill. The Gospels tell of Jesus teaching within the temple courts, driving out money changers and declaring the grounds a place for prayer. This mountain was not just stone. It was the setting for lessons of morality, sacrifice, and divine presence. Through the ages, the Temple Mount has gone by many names: Mount Zion, Mount Moriah, Har Habayit, but all point to one truth. This was more than land. It was the meeting point of heaven and earth, the ground where the divine brushed against the mortal. But beneath its surface lies a story even more astonishing, one hidden from view for millennia. That's where the power of AI stepped in, reshaping everything we thought we knew. The soil that holds a silent warning. In most places on Earth, uncovering the past is a matter of shovels and permits. But here, on the Temple Mount, the very soil itself is untouchable. Each stone carries sacred weight. Each layer of earth could ignite not just curiosity, but conflict. A single careless excavation could set off political tension that spans nations, faiths, and centuries. The reason is clear. This hill is not just geography, it is destiny. To Jews, it is the resting place of the Holy of Holies, where God's presence was believed to dwell. To Muslims, it is the third holiest site in Islam, where the Prophet journeyed to heaven. To Christians, it is the backdrop of Christ's ministry and message. The sanctity is universal, but so is the caution. Since the 1800s, adventurers and explorers have dreamed of uncovering the secrets beneath the mount. One of the earliest was Charles Warren, a British engineer who dared to descend into hidden shafts and water channels beneath Jerusalem's stone foundations. With little more than lantern light, he traced mysterious passageways, stumbled upon carved chambers, and gazed into empty spaces that hinted at ancient architecture long forgotten. His discoveries thrilled the world, but they also sparked alarm. Religious leaders feared that further exploration would desecrate sacred ground. Access was quickly restricted. The message was clear. Beneath this plateau lies holiness, not a dig site. And so, the Mount became the most forbidden ground in archaeology. The stakes are more than spiritual. Control of the Temple Mount has shifted from empire to empire. The Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Byzantines, the Umayyads, the Crusaders, the Ottomans, and eventually the British. Each added to its story, leaving new layers upon older ones. Yet beneath them all, untouched, lies something greater than monuments, something no ruler dared to reveal. By the time Israel gained control of the Old City in 1967, professional archaeologists were finally able to examine areas around the Temple Mount. They uncovered remnants of palaces, fortifications, and even evidence of the Second Temple period. Yet the heart of the Mount remained sealed off, guarded by sacred law and political tension. No one was permitted to touch its soil directly. For decades, this silence remained unbroken, until a surprising event in the 1990s shattered the stillness. Without oversight, tons of soil were removed from the Temple Mount and discarded in the Kidron Valley. Archaeologists called it a tragedy. Centuries of history dumped like garbage. But from that disaster emerged something remarkable: the Temple Mount Sifting Project. In makeshift tents, volunteers and experts sifted bucket after bucket of soil, carefully washing away the dust to reveal what time had hidden. Coins stamped with royal names, arrowheads from Crusader wars, fragments of jewelry from Islamic dynasties, all emerged from the dirt. More than 500,000 artifacts were uncovered, each whispering a story of devotion, conflict, and worship. And buried within them were the most startling fragments of all, evidence that connected directly to the First Temple itself. Clay seals inscribed with priestly names, ceremonial tools aligned with scripture, ritual fragments suggesting that the stories of Solomon's temple were more than legend. They were memory carved in stone. This was the first spark, the first glimpse of truth. But technology was about to take the search much further. When artificial intelligence entered the picture, the ground itself began to speak in ways no shovel ever could. When machines listened to stone. By the early 2000s, scholars had already recovered fragments of the past from discarded soil. But they still faced the same barrier. No one could dig directly beneath the Temple Mount. Traditional archaeology had reached its limit. That's when a new kind of explorer arrived. Not with picks and shovels, but with algorithms and scanning beams. Between 2021 and 2024, a team of researchers decided to let artificial intelligence do what human hands could not. They began by feeding the AI centuries of forgotten maps, notes, and sketches, including British Mandate surveys drawn during the final days of Ottoman rule. These hand-drawn plans, yellowed with age, hinted at tunnels, stairways, and hollow spaces that no one had entered in generations. On its own, the maps were little more than rumor. But once digitized and analyzed by AI, patterns emerged. Faint lines matched radar scans. Ancient rumors aligned with modern data. The computer was, in essence, listening to the stones, hearing what the naked eye could not. The real breakthrough came with ground-penetrating radar. a technology once reserved for military use. Waves of energy were pushed deep into the limestone bedrock. At first, the results seemed ordinary: scattered voids, natural pockets in the rock. But then, the images sharpened. Shapes too precise to be natural began to appear, walls forming perfect angles, corridors stretching in straight lines, chambers with measured proportions. Nature could not explain them. Only human hands could. The AI compared these scans with the British maps and found something shocking. The match was exact. Places once marked as sealed or blocked on century-old maps lined up perfectly with the radar signatures of hidden spaces. It was as if the stones had been waiting all this time for someone to finally connect the dots. Permission was granted to explore near the western wall, away from the plateau itself. There, beneath centuries of rubble, workers uncovered a staircase carved directly into limestone. Each step was worn, smoothed by countless feet long ago. The staircase led downward into silence. At its base was a forgotten chamber. The walls carried faint carvings of crosses, suggesting it had once been used as a Christian sanctuary during the Byzantine era. Niches cut into the stone hinted at lamps or offerings. Time had nearly erased its purpose, but the silence carried a sacred weight. Yet what truly stunned the team was not the chamber itself, but the foundation beneath it. Gigantic stones, cut, polished, and fit together so tightly that not even a blade could slide between them, formed the base. This was construction far older than the Byzantines, older even than Herod's Second Temple. The design echoed the monumental gates of Megiddo and Hazor, structures tied to the First Temple era. Dating tests confirmed what many had long suspected. This foundation predated Roman engineering by centuries. The alignment was uncanny, as though scripture itself had leapt from the page into stone. The chamber was a palimpsest, a holy site built upon an even holier foundation. For the first time, scholars had tangible evidence that beneath the dome of the rock and Al-Aqsa, beneath the layers of conquest and rebuilding, something from Solomon's time might still be preserved. And yet, this was only the beginning. Because the AI was about to reveal something even more breathtaking, a hidden system beneath the mount that no one believed could exist. The rivers of stone. As the AI continued its scans along the southern edge of the Temple Mount, something unusual appeared on the radar. Beneath layers of bedrock were shapes too fluid to be rooms, too deliberate to be natural caves. The outlines curved, branched, and connected like the veins of a living body. At first, the team assumed these were ancient storage pits or collapsed tunnels. But the AI kept refining the images. Walls were coated in a plaster-like material. Surfaces reflected light in smooth curves, and faint mineral residues clung to the stone, remnants of water. These weren't caves. They were cisterns, aqueducts, and reservoirs carved directly into solid limestone. The scale was staggering. The channels stretched out like an underground river system, all engineered with purpose. Some funneled rainwater from the surface into massive holding basins. Others branched into smaller channels with precision outlets to regulate flow. Overflow passages led excess water away, preventing floods. The design was elegant, balanced, and centuries ahead of its time. When the plaster was analyzed, the results were even more shocking. The chemical composition pointed to the First Temple period, nearly 3,000 years ago. This meant the water system was not Roman, not Byzantine, not Herodian. It predated them all. To put this in perspective, civilizations at that time struggled with basic irrigation. Yet here was a hydraulic network capable of storing, regulating, and purifying water in vast quantities. Technology so advanced it could rival the aqueducts of Rome, but built centuries earlier. The more scholars studied the system, the clearer its purpose became. This wasn't only about drinking water. One basin, larger than the rest, contained ash deposits and traces of organic matter. It wasn't a reservoir, it was a ritual pool. The water here had been used for cleansing sacred vessels, washing the hands of priests, and perhaps even preparing offerings for sacrifice. The Book of Chronicles describes how King Hezekiah ensured water flowed for temple rituals, securing both practical needs and sacred duties. For centuries, many assumed such passages were symbolic exaggerations, but here, beneath the Temple Mount, was proof written in stone and water. This discovery overturned long-held beliefs. The first temple was not a simple structure with symbolic rites. It was a carefully planned sacred complex where engineering and spirituality intertwined. Water itself had been transformed into an instrument of devotion. The AI had revealed what human eyes could not, a holy infrastructure still pulsing silently beneath the earth. But the Mount had one more secret to share, a hidden doorway sealed for centuries, leading to something no one expected. The Sealed Gateway. As AI scans mapped the subterranean landscape beneath the southern edge of the Temple Mount, a new anomaly appeared, one unlike any chamber or cistern seen before. This was not a hollow void or a curved basin. It was a rectangle, perfectly aligned, its entrance blocked by a slab of stone thicker than a man's arm. It was a doorway. For weeks, the team studied the data, unsure whether to press forward. Permission was fragile, the stakes higher than ever. Yet the evidence was too compelling to ignore. With surgical precision, debris was cleared from around the entrance, revealing a threshold untouched for millennia. The atmosphere seemed to shift, as though the stones themselves were aware of what was about to unfold. When the last barrier gave way, the team stepped into a small chamber less than 10 feet across. Its walls were carved directly from bedrock, smooth and unadorned. The silence was overwhelming, the air heavy with the scent of dust and ash. At first glance, it appeared empty, but in the center lay a shallow stone basin. Surrounding it were fragments of clay lamps, charred incense, and small offerings long extinguished. Unlike other structures eroded by centuries of conflict, this room had been deliberately sealed, as if its builders intended it to survive untouched. And it had. Under artificial light, faint markings emerged on the walls. At first, they looked like scratches, but closer inspection revealed otherwise. They were inscriptions, letters carved in Paleo-Hebrew, one of the oldest written forms of the language. Time had worn the edges, but the message was still readable. It spoke of a permanent presence, a spirit bound to this place. Scholars froze. The phrase echoed ancient descriptions of the Shekinah, the divine presence said to dwell within the Holy of Holies. Tradition had always claimed this most sacred space lay somewhere within the temple. But here, for the first time, was physical evidence that such a chamber might truly exist. The style of the inscription matched texts from the 8th and 7th centuries BCE, precisely the era of Solomon's temple. The limestone basin mirrored vessels described in Scripture, used in purification rituals. The oil lamps bore designs typical of First Temple worship. Piece by piece, the details aligned. This was no ordinary room. It was sacred space. For centuries, Skeptics dismiss the Holy of Holies as legend, an invention of Scripture. But this discovery forced a reckoning. What lay beneath the Temple Mount was not metaphor. It was memory, preserved in stone, ash, and word. The chamber seemed to whisper across time, "Here, the divine once dwelled." But the world was not ready for such a revelation. What followed was a storm of secrecy, silence, and caution. Secrets sealed in silence. The revelation of the hidden chamber was not met with the blare of trumpets or bold press conferences. Instead, whispers carried the news from scholar to scholar, from archivist to priest, from mosque to monastery. Those who had seen the chamber with their own eyes spoke with reverence and caution. The reason for the silence was obvious. The Temple Mount is the epicenter of devotion for billions of people. For Jews, it is the dwelling of God's presence on earth. For Muslims, it is the site of the Prophet's ascension. For Christians, it is a place sanctified by the life and teachings of Jesus. To declare that one faith's narrative had been physically confirmed risked inflaming centuries of tension. Authorities tread carefully. Vague statements hinted at significant findings without ever naming them. Access to reports was limited. Photographs were classified. The words carved in Paleo-Hebrew were not displayed to the public. The chamber was real, but its meaning was guarded like a state secret. Yet scholars could not stay silent forever. Some theologians saw the find as validation of prophecy, a reminder that the temple once connected heaven and earth. For them, it was a moment of triumph. But others, particularly within the Orthodox Jewish community, reacted with unease. According to their tradition, the Holy of Holies is so sacred that even stepping near it without ritual purification is considered a transgression. The thought that researchers had entered this chamber, deliberately or not, was seen by some as a violation of the divine order. Meanwhile, historians turned to ancient texts with fresh eyes. Passages long dismissed as poetic exaggeration began to look like eyewitness accounts. References to sacred basins, inscriptions of permanence, and rituals of purification no longer seemed abstract. They were descriptions of real places, real objects, and real people. Behind closed doors, international institutions began taking interest. Funding flowed quietly into new technologies designed to study the Mount without disturbing it. One of these tools was muon imaging, the same method that revealed hidden rooms inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. By measuring cosmic particles passing through stone, researchers hoped to create a 3D map of the Temple Mount's interior, detecting chambers and tunnels still concealed beneath its surface. The results of these experiments remain sealed in classified reports, but insiders claim that the imaging revealed more voids, more structures, more mysteries waiting to be unlocked. For the first time in centuries, the Temple Mount was no longer just a symbol of faith. It was becoming the center of one of the greatest archaeological mysteries of the modern age. And yet, the deeper the discoveries went, the heavier the silence grew. Because with every inscription, every basin, every stone aligned with Scripture, the line between faith and science blurred. The past was no longer legend, it was truth, and the world was not ready to face it. When faith and science collide, the discovery of the sealed chamber and its inscriptions didn't just shake the academic world, it rippled through the very fabric of human belief. For centuries, faith and archaeology have lived in an uneasy truce. Scripture provided the stories, while science demanded evidence. But now, beneath the stones of Jerusalem, evidence and scripture had collided head-on. For Christians, the revelation was seen as a confirmation of prophecy. Entire denominations quietly began referencing the discovery in sermons, interpreting it as a sign that ancient promises were real and that the connection between heaven and earth had once been tangible. Some even whispered that this could herald the approach of a new spiritual era. In Jewish communities, the response was more complex. On one hand, the chamber seemed to validate what Scripture had always taught, that God's presence dwelled in the temple. On the other hand, the possibility that researchers had stepped into what might have been the Holy of Holies was deeply troubling. According to Jewish law, that space can only be entered by the high priest, and only once a year, on Yom Kippur. For some, the act of discovery was not triumph, but desecration. For Muslims, the Temple Mount remains the noble sanctuary, the site of the Prophet Muhammad's ascension. Any suggestion that one faith's claim could outweigh another's was viewed as dangerous. Leaders feared that publicizing the findings could inflame tensions in a region already fraught with conflict. The Dome of the Rock still glimmers under the sun. Al-Aqsa still calls the faithful to prayer, and to hint that their foundation lay atop another religion's sacred chamber was politically explosive. Governments understood the danger. That is why no official announcement has been made. The world has only whispers, fragments of leaked reports, and the careful words of those who know too much, but dare not speak freely. The chamber exists. The inscriptions exist. But the meaning is withheld, suspended between silence and revelation. Meanwhile, archaeologists are left in a strange position. They know that history has been rewritten, yet they cannot publish openly. Instead, they work in shadows, piecing together data, re-examining ancient texts, and quietly debating what it all means. For them, the Temple Mount is no longer just a historical site. It is the greatest unsolved puzzle of the modern world. And yet, perhaps the greatest question is not what was found, but what still lies hidden. Because the scans, the muon imaging, and the AI analysis all suggest that more chambers remain sealed, untouched since antiquity. What could be waiting in the darkness? Sacred vessels? Scrolls of forgotten scripture? Or something so powerful it could change history forever? The Temple Mount has not given up all of its secrets. It has only whispered the first of them. The mystery that endures. The Temple Mount has stood as a silent witness to thousands of years of devotion, destruction, and rebirth. Empires have risen and fallen upon its stones. Kings, prophets, and conquerors have walked its courtyards. And yet, beneath its surface, truths too dangerous to uncover have slept for centuries. Now, with the rise of artificial intelligence and modern imaging, those truths are stirring. Chambers sealed in darkness, inscriptions echoing ancient scripture, and water systems carved with impossible skill. All are beginning to emerge. Each revelation strengthens the bridge between faith and fact, reminding us that what was once dismissed as myth may be memory preserved in stone. But even with these discoveries, the Temple Mount holds back more than it reveals. For every inscription deciphered, there are 10 more questions. For every chamber mapped, there may be another still hidden. For every whisper of holiness, there is the looming shadow of conflict. The world may not be ready for what lies beneath. To one faith, the finds are validation. To another, they are challenge. To a third, they are prophecy. The balance is delicate, the consequences immense. Perhaps that is why silence still shrouds the greatest details. Perhaps that is why the stones continue to guard their secrets. And yet, one truth cannot be ignored. The Temple Mount is no ordinary hill of limestone. It is the beating heart of history itself, a place where heaven and earth touched, where civilizations converged, where the divine left traces in the dust. As AI continues to probe the hidden pathways beneath Jerusalem, we may soon face discoveries that shake not just science and religion, but the very way we understand our place in the universe. So the question remains, when the next sealed chamber is found, when the next inscription is read, and when the stones finally reveal their last secret, will the world be ready to hear it? The Temple Mount is more than stone and soil. It is a vault of human faith, a puzzle of history, and perhaps the closest point on earth where the divine once walked. And now, with the help of technology, that vault has been cracked open. But what else lies waiting beneath its surface? Forgotten scrolls? Sacred relics? Proof of stories we've only known through faith? Or something far beyond imagination? One thing is certain. This is only the beginning. If you enjoyed this journey into the hidden secrets of the Temple Mount, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more incredible discoveries, and tap the bell icon so you never miss a moment. And now, go ahead and watch the next video appearing on your screen. You won't believe what history is about to reveal next.